Right now in South Korea, a disturbing and bizarre situation is actually unfolding right now. Marriage is becoming an economic battlefield where everyone is fighting for their peace. And the results are both hilarious and deeply concerning. A recent survey of young Koreans and Japanese painted a clear picture. When Korean men in their 20s and 30s were asked why they're not tying the knot, the top answers were childbirth and childcare burden and housing costs. Sounds reasonable, right? Big expenses. But then when Korean women were asked what they seek in a partner, their second highest priority, right after personality, was financial capability and job stability. They literally called these survival conditions for marriage.
Wait, are they saying men should just magic up a house and pay for kids? While also complaining about how hard it is to pay for houses and kids. This sounds like a cartoon.
Exactly, it's an absurd circular logic. Men are saying marriage is too expensive, while women are saying we'll only marry you if you've already paid for everything. It's like everyone agrees there's a giant, unscalable financial wall blocking marriage, but only one side is expected to climb it, and then also carry someone else to the top. What's almost impossible to believe is this isn't just a funny observation, it's a critical social breakdown. So you might ask, but why would they actually demand this? Why this relentless focus on a man's wallet as a survival condition for marriage? The core problem here isn't simple. It's rooted in a deeply ingrained societal mindset where relationships themselves are evaluated through a cold, hard capitalist lens. In Korea, an exaggerated capitalist framework has commodified almost every aspect of life, including marriage. It's no longer just a union of two people, it's a high-stakes financial transaction. The pursuit of love or companionship often takes a backseat to securing the biggest possible slice of the economic pie. Women, operating within a society that still places immense pressure on men to be primary providers, especially when inadequate social safety nets for childcare exist, are making a stark calculation. They're effectively asking, why would I sign up for the immense stress and hardship of raising a family in an expensive city if my partner isn't bringing a significant financial advantage to the table? It's a hyper-rational, self-interested approach born from a system that teaches everyone to relentlessly fight for their financial share, even in their most intimate relationships. The real background behind their audacity is a ruthless capitalist market dynamic where individuals are constantly evaluating how to maximize their personal comfort and security, often at the perceived expense of others. What's almost impossible to believe is the cultural context that makes these demands so uniquely intense here. Imagine a country where, despite being ultra-modern, a rigid tradition persists. The man must provide the home. Not just rent an apartment, but often secure a Jones deposit worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, or even outright buy a house before marriage. This isn't just about individual effort, it's a uniquely Korean phenomenon entangled with a volatile real estate market. The chilling formula hidden beneath the surface is this. Korean men typically spend years in mandatory military service, followed by longer university programs. This delays their entry into the workforce by years compared to, for instance, their Japanese counterparts, who start earning much earlier. This creates an 8-year savings gap, yet the expectation for a pristine financial portfolio for marriage remains. While other cultures might start with a modest rented apartment and build wealth together, in Korea, the man is often expected to have already won the housing lottery just to get to the starting line. The hexagonal man ideal, demanding perfection across wealth, height, looks, job, and even rich parents, sets an impossibly high bar.
So, it's not just about money. It's about a cultural treadmill that's almost impossible to keep up with for men.
Precisely. The system is flawed at its core. Here's why this was no accident. The inadequate and unaffordable housing market is a colossal failure, especially for young couples. The government's failure to stabilize housing costs and provide accessible paths to home ownership has transformed marriage into an economic hurdle. Add to that insufficient social support for work-life balance and childcare, which leaves potential mothers fearing career setbacks or overwhelming domestic responsibilities. This societal reinforcement of imbalanced gender expectations, amplified by online criticism calling men who don't meet these standards dotainam, creates a powerful, informal societal system that actively discourages marriage.
I worked so hard, went to college, finished my military service. But how am I supposed to save enough for a jeans deposit when everything is so expensive?
I don't want to struggle. My friends all have partners who provide stability. Why should I settle for less when I have my own career?
This isn't just someone else's problem. This dialogue, or versions of it, plays out daily, pushing men to the brink of despair and women to an equally pragmatic, if equally isolating, stance. But this was only the beginning. So what happened when these conflicting demands, fueled by capitalist logic and rigid traditions, finally collided? The real twist that makes this even more unsettling is the spectacular backfire, seasoned with a generous helping of hypocrisy. Korean men finding themselves perpetually underqualified for the hexagonal man ideal are simply giving up. They're saying, if I'm going to be labeled a do to Anam just for not having a house by 30, then why even bother? This leads to plummeting marriage rates, the lowest among OECD countries, and rather ironically for a country obsessed with its declining birth rate, a growing trend of Korean men looking abroad for partners. The critical clue we absolutely cannot miss is where they are looking: Japan.
They're really going to Japan to find wives? That's wild.
It is wild, but it's a direct consequence. While Korean women, according to public commentary, are expecting men to already own property and provide a life of comfort, Japanese women, according to the same survey, prioritize personality and willingness to share household chores over a man's financial status. They are open to starting small, renting, and building a life together, focusing on partnership rather than pure provision. The veil has finally been lifted. The cold logic of capitalism, which pushed Korean women to demand financially optimal partners, is now inadvertently pushing Korean men to find partners who value emotional compatibility over material assets, precisely because the local market's demands have become utterly unfulfillable. The very demands that created the shortage are now driving the supply elsewhere.
In Japan, they seem more focused on building a life together, sharing. It feels like a real partnership, not just an audit of my bank account.
I heard about that. It's hard enough here. Maybe that's the only way some men can get married.
This isn't just someone else's problem. This isn't just a quirky anecdote, it's a desperate pragmatic choice by men who are tired of being judged by an impossible standard. The real nature of this incomprehensible situation is that society has inadvertently created a marriage threshold that is artificially inflated and economically unfeasible for the vast majority of its youth. This isn't just about individual choices, it's a systemic failure. The reason people are unanimously stunned is that this makes a direct impact on national stability and the future. If left unchecked, the future prognosis for Korea is bleak. We're talking accelerated demographic collapse, a rapidly aging population, a shrinking workforce, and severe strain on national systems. The existing animosity between genders will only intensify, leading to deeper social fragmentation. This leads to economic stagnation, increased social loneliness, and a profound crisis of identity. The cold logic of capitalism, when applied unchecked to fundamental human relationships, reveals its brutal efficiency in punishing unsustainable demands and unsustainable systems. The true nature of this incomprehensible situation is a societal system that is actively pricing its own youth out of marriage and family formation, resulting in a self-inflicted demographic and social crisis. Fuel the truth at Dating in Korea. Support the structure. Stay safe in the lounge.